Have you ever thought about lucid dreaming? Because I know I really haven't. And then I decided to read this book, Lucid Dreaming, The Gateway to the Inner Self, which I thought would be a super easy book to read. I've had it on my bookshelf for like 3 or 4 years, but false. This was a lot more interesting, a lot more complicated than I anticipated. And so now I'm even more excited to talk about this book, even though it'll be a little bit challenging. So let's get into it. In order to understand lucid dreaming, it's worth to go back and look at the most famous psychologists and psychoanalysts that have looked at dreams and what they believed dreams to be. And the most prominent psychologists on this subject are Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung. Carl Jung was actually good friends with Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud was one of his mentors, but over time they did grow apart because their philosophies started to diverge. To keep things simple, Sigmund Freud believed that there are 3 aspects of the self: the id, the ego, and the superego. And Freud found that dreams, or he believed that dreams were representations of the id. So there were these impulsive, magical thoughts and manifestations that are formed by this very primal inner self. So it dealt with a lot of aggression, sexual repression, and the id generated dreams in order to have some sort of self-fulfillment. And so Freud really saw dreams through this sort of sexualized lens. Carl Jung believed that dreams were the window into the unconscious. And he found that dreams are the best way to connect with the unconscious and to understand it. And this book, in particular, Lucid Dreaming, really focuses on the Jungian philosophy of dreams. And Waggoner provides a lot of examples talking about how he was able to connect with the unconscious in his own experiences and the things that he's discovered. And some of his accounts of his lucid dreams are really remarkable, just really fascinating stuff. It really makes you want to try it out, although it apparently takes years and years of practice to understand and how to control yourself in the dream state. Now to get on to the basics. What is lucid dreaming? It's good to define it. So lucid dreaming is when an individual becomes aware of the fact that they're in a dream. And the second element is that the individual can then control and manipulate their dreams. There are a lot of benefits to lucid dreaming, and that's what this book really talks about. All the things that a person can do that can help them in their waking life. One benefit is for individuals who suffer from nightmares, individuals who have PTSD, individuals who are afraid of their dreams. By becoming lucid and by training yourself to become lucid in a dream, you're able to combat those nightmares. And there are examples of individuals who have been able to stop all of their nightmares by becoming lucid. Just the very act of becoming lucid and facing your nightmare allows the individual to speak to their unconscious and to recognize and realize what that nightmare was trying to tell them, because the nightmares that happen in our heads are really just symbols of things that we're battling in our lives. And once we're able to face them and speak to them and understand them, we can potentially dissolve them. Other things that lucid dreaming can help an individual with is purely understanding themselves. And Robert Waggoner has discussed how once you become lucid, you have the power to talk to the dream figures. And you develop the power to ask the dream itself, to go beyond the dream figures and to ask the unconscious about the symbols in the dream, or to just provide an answer. And this goes back to Jungian beliefs about dreams and the fact that the unconscious has its own subject, it has its own ego. It operates almost independently from the waking self. And a good example, or a good way to tie this in, is Ernest Hilgard's psychology. So Ernest Hilgard is an American psychologist who specifically focused on hypnosis. And Hilgard found that there's something called the hidden observer, that when there are individuals under hypnosis, there is a part of the self that was not controlled by the hypnotized part. And when Hilgard would talk to the hidden observer in hypnotized individuals, the hidden observer would state that it's not concerned with pain, it's not concerned with judgment. It is not a hypnotized part of the self, it knows all parts. And so Hilgard believed that there are 2 elements to awareness, that there's a monitoring function and an executive function. And the monitoring function is aware of the entire self far beyond the executive function, the executive self. And Waggoner argues in the book that there is an ability to reach that other ego of the self, that this is the element of ourselves that has much greater awareness that we do, that registers a lot of information. And those who lucid dream found that when they ask questions of dream figures or when they ask the dream itself, they found that the response is reflective and intelligent, and that the responses that they receive appear very unexpected and unpredictable. And so it feels like it doesn't quite feel like it's part of the waking ego, the lucid ego. It feels like it's coming from something else. Another benefit of lucid dreaming is to heal oneself, and that kind of ties into the ability to battle nightmares. Well, another component is to deal with emotional trauma. Those who are dealing with horrible events in their life, who are dealing with pain, are able to create their dreamscape. So once a person is in a lucid dream, they can ask the dream to manifest things for them, to experiment with things for them. So the more interesting or controversial element potentially is the ability to heal the physical body. And under this idea, it's the fact that the unconscious stores a lot more information about our body than we are aware of in our conscious state, that a disease starts to form before any symptoms come to the surface. But the body is aware of it. The unconscious self is aware of it because it's aware of the entire body. It knows that something is wrong, even though our waking self doesn't feel those symptoms. And in the unconscious state, we can become more aware of their medical condition. And so people have had dreams where they may realize that they have something with their gallbladder without having any idea that they had an issue, but their dreams can inform them of potential illnesses. And the more controversial element is that people have experienced the ability to heal physical ailments in their dream state, to go into their dream state and not only figure out what's wrong, but to heal their bodies through acts in their dream state by specifically focusing on that. And a part of it could be a placebo effect. A part of it could be something that is more unknown and has not been studied yet in full. Something that I also wanted to mention is that one of the most prominent individuals who focuses on lucid dreaming is Stephen LaBerge, and he is discussed extensively in this book. And Stephen LaBerge has done studies looking at lucid dreams, trying to figure out, is lucid dreaming real? Because those who have experienced lucid dreams, of course, understand, yes, this is definitely happening in my mind, but he's had people hooked up in studies while they're sleeping, and in their REM cycle has asked people that once they're lucid dreaming to give a signal. So to move their eyes back and forth 8 times, or to rotate their wrist while they're in their REM cycle to demonstrate that they have become lucid in their dreams. And that has been recorded and verified. And so it has been confirmed that people do experience lucid dreaming while they're asleep. Another wonderful benefit of lucid dreaming is the ability to solve problems. And I think we all know that many people just have to sleep on a problem sometimes, that we are stuck at a computer, we're looking at a situation, we don't know what it is, and we decide, okay, we're gonna focus on it, we're gonna go to bed, maybe in the morning something will come to us. And many times it does. And a lot of scientists, a lot of artists have had answers come to them in their dream, because while the brain is asleep, it's still working. And individuals who have lucid dreamt have tried dream incubation, which is where before they go to sleep, they ask a question or they make a request. They tell themselves, when I dream tonight, I will focus on this problem and I will be solving this problem in my dream. And they're able to then create that in their dream state, because our unconscious focuses on things that happen in our waking life, and our conscious works with us. He wants to help solve problems for us. And so they have also come up with really creative answers and artistic ventures based on the things that they see in their dreams. An example in the book is an artist who would very often use dream incubation to figure out art, to find art. So he would dream about going to an art gallery, and he would tell himself that he is going to look at art in his dreams, and that he will see art in his dreams, which he then wakes up and draws. So there's a lot of creativity and ability to untap a lot of intelligence in our dreams, because based on accounts of dreams is that the unconscious is more intelligent than the conscious self, by virtue of the fact that it simply has a lot of information. And to access that information, we may have to enter our dreams and talk to our own brain to find that out. Some other benefits of lucid dreaming, which again go into the more, I guess, out there ideas or something that's more controversial, which again, I'm keeping an open mind to, is this idea of the collective unconscious. And this is also an element from Carl Jung's belief on dreams, that we're all part of a collective unconscious. We don't just have one unconscious self, but we're all linked up together to the unconscious of the entire universe. And so once we tap into the unconscious, we could also start tapping into the collective unconscious, the connection of our entire existence. And something that people have sort of tapped into in their dreams is the receipt of precognitive information or precognitive dreams. And Carl Jung has said that there are certainly precognitive dreams, but it doesn't mean that necessarily that it is a miracle or something that you're getting from the future. But Carl Jung has believed that crises in our lives have a long unconscious history. Waggoner has also experienced mutual lucid dreaming. So where he has done experiments with other lucid dreaming experts, he has tried to enter each other's dreams and see if they find common elements in their dreams. And they have found some evidence where they've slept and had the same dream and then sent their details and their information about the dreams that they had to a third party and saw if there's any commonalities. And they found that there are commonalities and that there's accounts of people being able to list out and talk about other people's dreams, which is really interesting. Again, and Waggoner says that that should not be the goal of lucid dreaming, that the most important element is to first understand yourself, and that lucid dreaming really can be for play and for fun, but the focus really should be first on self-awareness before really doing things such as mutual lucid dreaming. All right, now on to the mechanics. How does one lucid dream? Waggoner gets into that as well, the mechanics of lucid dreaming, and at the back of the book, he has some tips and tricks to help a person to start lucid dreaming. He does say that it is a very difficult process and it does take a very long time. And the way that he has become lucid is by focusing on his hands. And he's found that once he finds his hands in his dreams, that's a way for him to signal to himself that he's in a dream and that he can now become lucid. People have used other mechanics and other tricks as well. People sometimes buy goggles that flash lights in their eyes while they're asleep to notify them that they're in a lucid dream. So there are different tips for that, but that's the tactic that Waggoner has used. Another difficult aspect of lucid dreaming is to maintain focus. As soon as a person becomes aware of a lucid dream, it's really easy to wake up because you know that you're dreaming. But he has found that when you try to focus on your hands, you are able to maintain yourself in that lucid dream state and to not focus on an object for too long. You always have to be focusing and refocusing to remain in that dream state. So to look at your hands, then maybe look at something else further away, and then to look back to sort of maintain yourself in that dream state and to not get too excited that the second you have a very strong emotional reaction, you start to wake up. So to maintain a very level, calm playing field, so to speak, and to just focus on simple elements in the dream to get comfortable with it. And there are several stages to lucid dreaming. That in the beginning, a person really focuses on play. The most popular or favorite thing to do for lucid dreaming is flying. And flying is also a hard thing to master because we're so tied down to our belief system in the waking world of what's possible. And so in a dream state, people usually start out by flying by, flapping their arms or by swimming to create a sort of emotion. And over time, as people become more experienced, they can do easier things or things like fly like a Superman so that they don't have to actually move because they're aware that they're in a dream state. So he does talk about the mechanics of how to fly in a lucid dreaming state because it does get difficult, but it's definitely the most fun element, he says. He also talks about talking to dream figures. And sometimes these dream figures are completely nonsensical, and sometimes they can provide information. So he has had a dream where he has spoken to a dream figure which told him that it's his shadow self. And Carl Jung, this is also another Carl Jung element, believed of this idea of the shadow self, which is not necessarily an evil side of ourselves, but the unseen side of ourselves, a part that we're trying to reconcile, a part that perhaps is hidden from us, that has elements that we're trying to resolve. And there's this goal of trying to put ourselves together, to reincorporate our shadow selves into our real selves, to become whole. And so we may encounter shadow figures in our dream state, which are elements of ourselves that we would want to integrate if we became more aware of them. So these are our shadow selves. And so we can access information from our dream figures by asking them a question, asking why are they there or what their purpose is. And we can manifest dream figures as well. We can manifest objects. So in the beginning stages of lucid dreaming, it's really just about having fun and exploring the dream world. And as a person progresses in their lucid dreaming experience and expertise, they can access more and more knowledge. So a person can request a concept. They can ask the dream state itself to experience what it's like to be a color. They can meditate in a dream. And apparently meditation in a dream forces you to reach an even deeper state of self-awareness. Waggoner has had some interesting experiences where he's asked to experience awareness itself. So he has had dreams which don't even happen in a visual field, but almost in a feeling state, in a place that's almost difficult to describe at a physical level, because what he's experiencing is a concept, an interesting inner awareness. And a lot of it is just really fascinating. Just his accounts are just so interesting. It really makes you want to lucid dream. And it seems intimidating, it seems difficult. And there is something scary about reaching that inner part of the self. But I think what's important to keep in mind is that the inner self and the unconscious self is really still a part of you. And so it does want to protect you. And so things like nightmares and things like dreams may present us things which seem horrible or which seem damaging, but really it's a way of allowing us to process our own reality and to understand ourselves. Okay, so one criticism that I have about this book, just as a book, is that it's kind of repetitive. So it has a lot of information, but it's pretty thick. So it's about 280 pages, and I felt like there were some things that were redundant, that the same concept was repeated over and over again. And there are points of the book that felt kind of dry. So it's a thrilling read, but it's not a page turner, I would say. And I would say give this book a chance. It does have points where it just becomes kind of redundant and maybe kind of slow. No shade to Waggoner. I think he did a great job putting this together. So I obviously couldn't write it. It's a good book. But again, there are some slower parts in this book, and there are some things that maybe perhaps on a more philosophical level you might not agree with. I certainly think that he presented information in a way that was very compelling, and he provided research and evidence to support his claims. So I think it's worth a read and looking into these things and then deciding for yourself as to what you think. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys, and I'll see you next time.